What is up, everybody? DeAndre Coke here, and I've got a bunch of travel updates and a few things to keep in mind with another quick hit. Just got back from spending 2 weeks in Mexico. 1 week was in Tulum, the other was in Mexico City. We'll be recording that episode here shortly and get that out to you guys in the next week or two. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be absolutely amazing. Had an absolute blast there. Mexico City, hugely underrated city. So a few of the things I wanted to lay out for you guys with these quick hits. This is our segment where we just bring you quick news in the world of points and miles and travel. So this is a new month in January, and so we've updated our best offers on our website, and that's going to be linked to in the show notes as well, including as of this recording at least, there's still a couple limited time offers for the City Strata Premier card, which are transferable points, and Alaska Airlines Visa Signature card, which is very valuable for all of Alaska Airlines partnerships. So check out those links in the show notes as well. One of the things I wanted to talk about today, because if you're like me, you're a business owner, or you typically pay estimated quarterly taxes, you know that the Q4 taxes are due in January 15th, so next week. And in general, for those that actually have income tax to pay, a lot of the questions that we usually get are, it doesn't make sense to pay taxes with your credit card. So the answer to that is vehemently yes, as long as you use the right card. So essentially, the fee for paying taxes for credit card processing is usually around 1.85%. However, they have a processor now that's doing it for 1.75%. Not a huge change, but still a little bit better. Pay USA Tax, which I've always used over the years, they are no longer a processor option. So there's only two other ones available. But again, the cheaper fee is still 1.75%, which is not bad. If you're using a card like the Capital One Venture X, which gets you 2x on everything, you're essentially getting 2% worth of points versus paying 1.75%. So you're getting a delta basically, or alpha in this case, of 0.25. And so that's an automatic win. And so if you don't have the Capital One Venture X, it can still make sense if you're using a card that like the Chase Business Unlimited or Freedom Unlimited, which gets you 1.5x on everything, or the Amex Business Platinum, where any purchase or expense over $5,000, instead of getting 1 cent for 1x on everything, you're getting 1.5x on everything. So 1.5 is super close, obviously, to 1.75. And then the key is as long as you're redeeming these points, in this case, for more than a little over a cent per value, and as we talk about, you should be ideally getting over 2, then you're going to have that as a win as well. And then the one thing to not forget also, perfect way to hit a sign-up bonus as well through either your estimated taxes or through your income tax bill that you pay. So if your income tax bill is $3,000 and you want to hit a sign-up bonus for a card that requires you to spend $3,000 in 3 months, well, boom, one payment can take care of that. The next piece I wanted to move on, and this is for those of you that may have gift cards you're sitting on that you don't really plan to use, or maybe you got recently gifted from Christmas and again, don't really plan to use these. There's actually a strategy of transferring these gift cards into points. And this article is courtesy of the Points Guy. I posted this in our Facebook group earlier this week. But basically, what you can do is United partners with over 3 or 30 retailers, and that's companies like Best Buy, Sears, which still exists online, Starbucks, and Walmart. And fun fact, actually, we visited a Sears in person in Mexico City, which was wild. And you can actually trade in these gift cards as long as they have a minimum balance of $15. And essentially, the exchange rate's about 3.7 cents per mile. So, for example, if you have a $25 gift card that you submit to United Airlines miles, you would get 670 miles, right? So, $25 gift card, 670 miles. And so this isn't like the huge value. United miles aren't super valuable miles compared to others, but it's a really easy way to earn some miles for cards that you're probably not planning on using if you have any of those sitting around. And so to participate, your Mileage Plus account has to have been active for at least 90 days and have a positive balance. And then once you actually made this exchange, the miles should appear in your account within about 5 business days or so. And so if you're sitting on gift cards that you don't plan to use, they're collecting dust, keep this in mind as a strategy of how you can turn your gift card miles or gift card dollars into miles. There are a few transfer bonuses that are active for a few more days. All of these are good through January 15th, and these are all via Chase Ultimate Rewards. 20% to Air Canada Aeroplan, and that's a really great value for Turkish Airways, United, and Emirates redemption. So you can do that through Aeroplan. There's 20% to KLM and Air France, which is one of my personal favorites. And so that's how you can get business class to Europe for basically around 42,000 points each way per person instead of the usual 50K. So you can save a decent amount of points, especially if you're looking to do not just you, but you and a travel partner, you and your family, whatever it may be. That 20% savings can be huge. And then there's still the 70% to IHG. I really wouldn't do the IHG transfer, although it sounds like a huge bonus, just because the point value isn't that high. But if you do have a specific trip, specific destination, or you want to top up your balance so that you can perhaps use their book of 3 nights, get the 4th night free on points benefit, that could be something that you could do there as well. There's a quick update for those of you that have the Capital One Venture X card. So starting March 1st of this year, there's going to be some changes to the lounge access. So you're no longer going to have direct access to Plaza Premium lounges through the Venture X. But don't worry, most of these lounges are still going to be available with your complimentary Priority Pass membership. And the reason why I bring this up is because one of the favorite destinations for a lot of people is Cancun. And for the longest time, if you had a Capital One Venture X card, you could get access to the Mara Business Lounge in Cancun, but you didn't have access to that through Priority Pass with other cards. But now that option is going away for just having the Venture X. And so they might be mixing things around. Maybe you can get back in with the Amex Platinum in other ways, but if you frequently travel through Cancun and you've been used to having lounge access due to having the Capital One Venture X, which I know we've done multiple times, double check that next time you go. But again, you still have access to Priority Pass and through some of their lounges through Priority Pass. So this was just a small tidbit, but I know Cancun is a heavily traveled destination for a lot of people. And of course, lounge access is something that we all want to enjoy and don't want you to get there, expect to be able to sit in a lounge and then be thrown off guard. So that's just something that you might want to keep in mind for your next trip out there. And the last piece is we actually had a listener question as well. This one comes in from Jen, and she says, you often mention that 2 cents per point is the minimum redemption that you want to get the most value out of your points and miles. Can you explain where that number came from? Well, Jen, thanks for the question. So the reason for that number is essentially whenever you get a card with a sign-up bonus or points or whatever it may be, we're going to talk through Chase and Amex to keep this really simple. So with Chase, if you have Chase Ultimate Rewards points and you're working with the Sapphire Preferred or the Sapphire Reserve, for example, and you use the points through their travel portal, you're going to get at most 1.5 cents of value per point. What that basically means is that for 100,000 points, that's going to be worth $1,500 in travel. Through the Amex portal, it's even less. It's only 1 cent per point. And so essentially what that means is for 100,000 points, you're only going to get $1,000 worth of value. So if you want to take a $10,000 business class ticket or flight, let's say it's Q Suites or Emirates or something along those lines, and you try to book it through the Amex portal, it's going to cost you 1 million points to do. Well, ideally, you want to get more value than what you could easily do through the travel portal. So the reason why we say 2 cents or more is because you want to ideally turn 100,000 points into a value of not $1,000 or $1,500, but minimum into $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of value. And that's where you can really get the biggest bang for your buck. Now, you're only going to get that by transferring to the airlines directly or transferring to the hotels directly, which is what we talk about often. But that's where really the opportunity comes in for you to get the best bang for your hard-earned credit card points and miles. Now, with all that being said, one of the things that I do want to clarify as well is sometimes it just makes sense to go with what's easy, what makes sense. Not every redemption is going to be perfect. We've had redemptions that were 9 cents per point, 15 cents per point. I think last year in our year-end recap, I mentioned my average was somewhere close to 6 cents per point of all redemptions we did last year. But that doesn't mean that every redemption we did was that. Sometimes it just makes sense. For example, when we were flying to San Francisco as a positioning flight before going on to Bali, we were exhausted. And instead of using our 13-hour layover to explore San Francisco, while I was on the plane, I used points to book the Grand Hyatt San Francisco, which is connected to the airport, so we could just relax and rest, and use probably, I think, maybe 20,000 Chase points that I transferred to Hyatt all in that same motion, basically, in that same moment. And that redemption was not a great redemption. But in that moment, we were tired and exhausted. It was easy, right? So if you need to use your points to go ahead and see family last minute, or there's just a trip that you really want to take and it's not the perfect redemption, do what makes your heart happy. At the end of the day, we play the points and miles game to be able to enjoy travel, for the travel to not cost us as much. And it's just like with me in the financial planning world, not everything has to be analytical and logical. Sometimes you just have to go with what feels great and the emotional side. And I tell clients that all the time. And that's something that also applies with points and miles. So take the trip, go get out of town, whatever you got to do, experience it and have a good time. Not every single redemption has to be perfect, but if you have the time to research, the time to find, and patience, yes, I want you to get every single point of value you possibly can, or dollar of value you possibly can from every single point, because we know that all of us work hard to earn these points. So that's it, everybody. That's all the quick hits for this week. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.